Well, let's see what kind of trouble we can get into this afternoon. Things are looking a touch different here in the shop. No more camper. Just kind of lost steam on that project and decided to get rid of it. And got that out of here, and no more than a day or two passed, and we ended up with this big green abomination to take its place. So I had a gaggle of 18-year-olds drop this off at the shop last weekend. I saw it on Marketplace. I was going to run down and pick it up, but had some stuff come up, couldn't make it down there, and told the kid that, I was interested in it, but couldn't make it there, and I'd toss some extra cash his way if he wanted to drive it up here, and lo and behold, he was willing to do that. So here it sits. But good God, this thing is heavier than I seem to remember. Well, to be honest, I never had an F chassis like this. I had an S chassis, and I don't remember the S being anywhere near this heavy, but that's all right. We've got some weight reduction planned, but first we have to get the old thing running. So sounds like the story is they picked it up from the original owner, and I don't really have an issue believing that. The old girl's only got 1,500 miles on it, and judging by the registration stickers, I really don't think it was ridden that much. It's actually in pretty damn nice shape. It looked like somebody must have registered it this year. It's got registration on it through 2024. So somebody had plans of riding it. It sounds like the guys I bought it from had it running at one point, were out riding it around, and then all of a sudden it lost spark. So it looks like they were trying to do some troubleshooting. It's half torn apart. I've been kind of picking at it here and there over the past week trying to figure some stuff out, but haven't really gotten too far on it yet, so I'll bring you guys up to speed here. And I guess first of all, let's just take a tour of the thing and see what we're working with here. So it's a 1994 Summit 583. It's an F chassis. I'm sure you can tell by looking at it. It's actually in pretty good shape. She's a little dirty from the drive up here. Wasn't covered or anything like that, just on an open trailer, so she's all covered in salt and road grime and everything like that. The suspension's pretty much gone out of it, which is to be expected. I mean, it's there, but not really. But that's going to get swapped out anyway. I mean, we'll probably save ourselves at least 50 pounds by getting that thing out of there and putting in an SC10. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to go with yet for suspension. I'm kind of thinking SC10 or SC10-3, just like we did on the Everest, but who knows? We got to see what's out there on eBay and see what we can get our hands on. But like I said, got to get it running first. But I don't know if this is the original seat or if this is freshly upholstered. I'm guessing it's freshly upholstered, but that looks pretty good. Looks like they were messing with the kill switch here. I don't know if this looks pretty new actually. I think they did mention they put a new kill switch on it, but anyway, that's disconnected at the moment. What else we got going on here? I don't think these are the stock skis. They're plastic and they have dual carbides. That definitely seems like an aftermarket upgrade to me, but that's pretty nice. Hood's in real decent shape, could use a shine. Only got one crack in it right here. And I'm debating trying to fix that, but all depends if we can get it running. But, well, I know we'll get it running. I just don't know what it's going to take yet. Oh, and maybe the best thing. I'll just put that wherever you want. Yeah, she's got a full tank of gas. That's like an extra 50 bucks right there. Maybe even more. I haven't checked the price of gas lately, but I think it's up to about $5 a gallon right down the road here. I don't know if you can see that or not. 1597 is the mileage, and I would think that's pretty accurate. Like I said, not a whole lot of registration stickers on here, just one from the state of Colorado and then the Wisconsin one that's current. So doesn't seem like she's got a whole lot of use on her. So being a 94, this does have the hack on it. I'm probably going to delete that. Really no reason to have it here, and this thing's definitely not going to make it up into the mountains. At the most, she'll end up in the UP, but no reason to have the hack on it for that either, so we're going to get rid of that. So anyway, the main thing we're looking at is trying to figure out why it doesn't have spark. So when they brought it here, plugs were out of it, coil was off, everything was sort of disconnected, so I think what we're going to do, I spent a little time on the internet just looking up specs and stuff like that. First thing we're going to do is just ohm out the coil and see what that looks like and see if that's good. And then I guess we're just going to work our way back from there and see what we can figure out. Based off of what I read, I mean, this is either going to be a coil issue, CDI box issue, or a stator issue. I mean, that's really all it could be. I don't think it's going to end up being the stator, but to be honest, I don't know. And the only reason I say that is because when you rip the cord, the headlight still lights up. But I believe there's two separate windings on the coil. There's one for the accessories like the lights and whatnot, and then there's the quote-unquote ignition coils on the stator. So it is possible that one could be bad and the other still be good, or however many there are. There might be 3 on there total, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But I guess let's go check out that coil since I have it sitting out on the bench over there. We'll ohm that out and see if the values coincide with what the manual says. Alright, so according to the manual we should have like 0.3 to 0.7 ohms on the primary winding on this ignition coil, which is going to be from this post to this post down here on the bottom. So let's see what we get there. So that's interesting. I would say that's actually a little on the high side. I mean, it says 0.3 to 0.7, so technically that's within spec, but it's pretty constant. So I guess we'll say that's good. Primary winding in the coil should be good. Interesting. So we're going to label that as suspect and just move on. We'll call it good for now and just check the rest of everything out here and see what those look like. So, and check the secondary winding. We're going to go from plug wire to plug wire here with the spark plug caps off, and we should have somewhere between 8,000 and 16,000 ohms. And yep, that looks just fine. 11.6 thousand, good enough. Really no need to check it in reverse, but we're going to just because slightly OCD. Yeah, it should be the same thing. All right. I mean, it's not shorted or open, so I think the coil's good, honestly. Probably going to snip back the spark plug wires a little bit, and then reattach the caps. I guess we could check the resistance on the caps too, but those are probably good. Let's just see what they are, see what they come in at. See if they're at least relatively the same. It's hard to get a good reading on that one. Let's try the other one. I don't know if that's just the probes that I'm using, the fact that I can't quite get a good good contact, or if there's actually an issue with that one. 4.5 thousand. I'm gonna tell you what, this one does seem a touch questionable. There we go. That was stable enough to make me like it. This definitely needs to be cleaned, so again, before we throw it back together, we're going to go through all this stuff with contact cleaner and a brush and just clean it all up and make sure that we're good to go there. So, I guess, for now I'm going to call this good, and we'll go check out the rest of the stuff there and see if we can't find something else that's a little more suspect. So, right here is where the ignition coil was mounted. We're going to go back over on that side and then just check the output on the wires that are coming from the stator. I don't unfortunately have voltages that we should be seeing there. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing something, and you know, nothing that's blatantly wrong. Unfortunately, the internet has not been good with information on this particular engine, or at least I've not been good at finding it, which is odd to me because I mean the 583 was used for like, I mean almost maybe a full decade. I mean it was used on quite a few different machines over quite a few different years, so I just thought it was kind of odd that I wasn't able to find too much information. But yeah, I guess let's just keep checking those wires, see what we have coming out of the stator, and see how that looks. So we got two different plugs down there that we're going to be looking at. This little white one right there, and then this 3-pronged one right there. Both of those are coming out of the stator. From what I can see on the wiring diagram, those both feed into the CDI box. So I just want to make sure that we have some sort of AC voltage coming out of there and feeding into the CDI. I have a feeling that if cleaning the connections on everything here and slapping it back together doesn't make it work, that CDI box is going to be the problem. Again, just because of what I was reading on the internet. The placement of the CDI box seems to be an issue, or has been an issue for some people. I mean, you've got your muffler right here, and the CDI is like less than 3 inches away from it with no sort of heat shielding whatsoever. So it sounded like quite a few guys had those burned up just from heat coming off the exhaust, so that is a possibility here. I don't know if that CDI is entirely encased in the backside or if it's something that we can take apart and check connections, so we can definitely take a look at that here in the future too. But let's get a meter on those plugs coming off the stator and see what we can find out there. Alright, so I guess we're just going to check these one at a time, and as long as we have some sort of AC voltage coming out of them, I'm going to be happy with that for now, I guess. It looks like the two female connectors are going to be hot or have voltage on them, and the male looks like some kind of a ground on the wiring diagram. So we'll just check the two females and see what we got there, and then we'll check what we got coming out of this white plug as well. And if I'm not mistaken, as long as I don't have my idiot hat on today, which I might, that should be AC current. So we'll see what we get there. And give ourselves ground. Alright, so we should be reading in volts AC there. Let's see what we get. See if I can actually read this upside down. Okay, that's interesting. So that could be, what would that mean? So there's voltage there. If I pull it slowly. Alright, let's toss that on max and see what we hold at. 3.7. This is me just pulling it slowly. 5. But if I rip it as hard as I can, am I doing this right? That's interesting. Well, I'll be 100% honest with you. I'm not sure what that means. So we're going to keep going, and we'll check the other side, or other pin here, and see if it's the same way. I guess that's entirely possible that that could be indicative of an issue there, because it should be able to read whatever voltage is coming out of there. So if that's going to open loop, then, well, shit. Alright, so this is going to be out of that white plug. And that's like not even a volt, not even half a volt. 0.3. Alright. Now let's check the resistance off of that 3-prong plug and just see what we get. Oh, where are we at there? About 13 ohms. 224 ohms. Now, you know, I really wish I could find a better wiring diagram. I might just have to suck it up and buy a manual for this thing. But there doesn't seem to be anything super wrong other than that voltage seems to drop out when you turn the engine over faster, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That sort of seems like it's indicative of an issue with the coil on the stator, but if you check the resistance of it, it reads, you know, you get a value back, which should indicate that it's good, more or less, unless, you know, it's the rotational force that causes the short, or the open, I guess. So that was somewhat inconclusive. I mean, not knowing exactly what those readings should be, it was just nice to see that there was voltage coming out of there, and I did get a solid resistance reading when checking it that way. So, I mean, when I pulled those apart, there was a bunch of green crusty crap on the plugs, so it might be worth just hitting that with some contact cleaner We'll hit it with a brush, clean it up real good, and then with those spark plug wires and caps, I think we're going to trim the wires back a little bit, reattach the caps, and we'll just toss it back together here, put some new plugs in, and see if anything changes. If it doesn't, then I guess I'm going to have to try and find a manual, or I don't really want to just start throwing parts at it, but that CDI box does seem a little bit suspect. I guess we'll sort of take that off and see if we can get it apart and look at the inside of that, or if it's completely encased in whatever epoxy they use to protect those things. So I'm going to grab the contact cleaner and a brush, and we'll just clean those up real quick and see what we can do that way. And when I was talking to the guys that dropped this off here, or that I bought it from, they said that they were riding it, parked it, and then when they went to try and start it again, it wouldn't start and they had no spark. So that actually kind of does sound like a stator issue to me. That's sort of what happened with that Johnson that I had, the rotary. I had fired that up, let it run for a while, shut it down, and then went to start it, no spark, and then that did end up being a stator issue. So it's like they heat up, and then when you shut them down, they crack, and then the coils crack, and that's all it really takes to end it. But for as dirty as all these connections are, I wouldn't have any issue believing that was part of the problem too. I don't know if this is old dielectric grease or what this crap is. That's got to be what it is. Alright, so we'll call that good for now. Let's go clean up the coil connections, and we'll trim those spark plug wires and then toss that back in here too. Alright, so we'll cut these back just a little bit. Expose some fresh core there. That should be decent. All these plug caps do. They have a screw in, well, yeah, it's more or less a screw in the end of them, and then you just kind of twist them on, thread them in, so they make good contact with the core of the actual high tension wire there. Alright, let's go slap that back on and see what happens. Let's see if we can't get this thing back in here. Alright, so just so we're on the same page here, I do still have the kill switch disconnected, so that's out of the loop. And then down here on the ground, you see I have the tether switch disconnected as well, just laying here, so that is also out of the loop. So, we got the plugs back in there. We should be good to give her a rip on the cord and see what happens, I guess. Make sure we got keys on. Alright, cross your fingers. Well, that's kind of stupid. I mean, it's awesome for me, but... So they had this thing listed for $2,000, and I guess when they lost spark, they dropped the price to $600. I gave them an extra $100 to drive it up here, and you know, I mean, it kind of looks like it's going to run. That's really weird. I guess. Well, I mean, I suppose there still could be some sort of intermittent spark issue that we'll have to deal with, but I mean, I guess corroded connections, that's all it takes sometimes, but that looks really good. I'm really happy with that, so shit, let's see if it runs. Man, I'm excited now. So I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you, like I don't have a ton of information on this sled, and that's why, I mean, talking about voltages that should be coming out of the stator coils and stuff like that, I really don't know what they should be. I thought it was kind of weird, like when we were checking the output on that one, how you could get, you know, a reading of like up to 5 volts AC, and then it would cut out. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, I'm not the smartest person with electrical stuff, at least when it comes to this kind of electrical stuff, so if I took some time and tried to learn about it, I'm sure I could, but I just haven't. So let's try and fire this thing up and see what happens. There's fuel shutoffs over here on this side. I'm thinking they might both be off, but I don't know. We do have a primer. I've not tested the primer to see if that works. They supposedly cleaned the carbs on this thing before they brought it up here. So I'm assuming whenever they got it from the guy that they got it from, they went through it and cleaned the carbs. So I guess we'll see how well they did, how good of a job they did. Let's go ahead and slug these back down for now. Oh, and unlike the Everest, this bad boy is oil injected, so hopefully that works. I see the tank is full, so that's a good thing. Yeah, God, with the full tank of gas, full tank of oil, man, this thing was definitely worth the $600. Got half that back in just fluids, for crying out loud. Oh, okay, so she doesn't have electric start, so I guess let's check out these fuel shutoffs. Oh, let's see if I can read this French-Canadian nonsense. Closed, open. So those are both open. All right. So, the primer work? Of course not. So, seeing as how the primer doesn't work, we're just going to try to shoot some mixed fuel in through the intake here and see what happens. I'm sure this thing is just going to be an absolute bear to pull over, so that'll be fun. That's freaking awesome. We got smoke rolling, so fuel or oil injection must be working. You know what time it is. So that turned out to be way too easy. I'm not complaining though, honestly, because of the lack of information I could find on the internet. Granted, I didn't spend that much time looking, but I mean, I probably spent half an hour to an hour looking for a manual and, you know, electrical specs and stuff like that. But had I not gotten lucky like this, I honestly probably would have just ended tossing parts at it. Like I knew the coil was good because I could find those specs online. But as far as voltages, you know, coming out of what wires and where, there's really nothing that I could find. I'm sure maybe it tells you better in actual service manuals if you were to buy one. But the best thing I could find online was just telling you where to attach the, you know, the Bombardier specific test meters to which lines and where and what you should set the meters to and stuff like that. Nothing generic that you could just check with a regular DVM, but I guess if you're having the same issue, you could probably use what I saw and recorded here as a bit of a reference as to what should be coming where. I mean, I did check all of the wires coming out of the stator, other than, I guess, the ones for... Actually, yeah, no, I did not check the ones for the lighting. But I guess in this case, those were working on here, so if anybody needs those, I can always go back and check those and let you know. But... yeah, that was super easy to get spark back, so I almost feel a little bit bad for the guys that dropped it off, but that's just how she goes sometimes. I think, you know, they had a bunch of newer sleds anyway, so there's really no point in messing around with something this old. Unless you're me and you're just into that kind of thing, but God, this thing is freaking heavy. It feels like it weighs almost twice as much as the Everest does. And I mean, there's a lot more material here. It's liquid cooled. It's got that going for it. So there's some extra weight there. But like I said, I've got some weight reduction planned. I'm thinking we're going to go 151 with this one, like I wanted to do with the Everest. But God, I just don't think that little air-cooled 500 would have had enough horsepower to turn the track, at least not quick enough. This one, I don't think it's going to be an issue. That seems like it's got quite a bit of snot to it. Not nearly enough room in the yard here to open it up. But she's definitely running rich. Got to get rid of that hack. That hack is, I mean, if you're not riding in the mountains, you really don't need it. And it was good for the time. I mean, when it was invented back in the 90s and what they used it for, and it stands for high altitude compensation. I'm sure most of you probably know that, and it's really just like a mechanical device to change your air-fuel mixture based on altitude. So when you head up into the mountains with your 2,000-pound Summit, you don't have to worry about rejetting and stuff like that, and you can just spend all of your time digging it out of a snowbank. But down here at sea level, you really don't need it. I mean, we're not sea level, we're like 700 some feet above sea level, I think. So regardless, still absolutely no reason to have that on there. And I think they kind of tend to make the machines run rich at idle, and this one is definitely running rich at idle. And I'm not 100% sure. I've never had a machine that had hack on it before. I think even the Summit that I had growing up had like SDI, if I remember correctly. But I guess when they fail, they tend to fail on the rich side. And I'm guessing this one has failed because it is a smoky mess, and trying to open it up, it just felt like the plugs were fouled for the first like half throttle, and then you get to 3/4 and it would sit there for a little bit and bog, and then she would open up after it cleaned itself out. But so yeah, in the future here, we're going to get rid of the hack. We're definitely going to swap out the rear suspension. That thing has to weigh, I would venture to guess, somewhere around 150 pounds, maybe 100 pounds. I don't know. I'm bad at guessing weights here. But anyway, whatever I toss in there is not going to weigh nearly as much. I think we're going to go longer than 136, whatever we decide to go. And I'm not sure what we're going to have for clearance between the drive shaft and the belly pan or the tunnel there. So I don't know what size lug track we're going to be able to get on that. But I would like to go at least 2 inches with it. So if we end up having to, I think we'll probably end up, okay, there's a couple things we could do there. We could stick with a 151, which was like the ZX chassis Summit, and then we'd be able to stick with the introverted drivers, or internal drivers, whatever you want to call them, and maybe just go down a tooth, and then I think we'd have enough room to fit a 2-inch paddle track in there. But of course, there's always the option to go up to like a 154 and then go with extroverted drivers, and that would give us enough room to run a 2-inch track, possibly even 2.5. but we'll see. That's going to take a little bit of planning on my part. And then I got to come up with some sort of, I don't know if they made a can for this sled or not. MBRP might make one. I think I saw something online. They may still make an aftermarket exhaust for it, at least a muffler, because that big ass suitcase that's on there, that's definitely an area where we could lose some weight. And what else are we gonna do? We'll probably throw risers on this one as well. I'm not gonna go with the same setup on the Everest because those are just a little too rickety for my liking. And with this sled weighing quite a bit more than the Everest, I just don't think that I'm gonna be able to rip on the handlebars or yank on the handlebars on this like I would like to, without those solid riser blocks being a bit of an issue. But God, you know what? I think I went through all the trouble of slapping a GoPro mount on there, and I don't think I ever frickin' hit record on there. Son of a gun. Sorry. unless I did. I don't know, but I really don't think I did. So, shoot. But, yeah, as I was riding it around in the yard there, the muffler actually fell off of it. The suitcase did. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that on this recording or not, but I would like to throw some sort of a can on it. I just don't know what route we're going to go with that yet. But yeah, I guess shorter video because that ended up being a lot easier than I had anticipated. But we got plenty to do yet. Unfortunately, I think spring is here. There's really not a whole lot of snow left out there, and all next week we're looking at upper 40s and I think even upper 50s on a couple days. So whatever we have left for snow is going to be gone, but we're about midway through March right now anyway. So plan is to just get this ready for next year, and then when the snow flies next fall, we'll actually be able to ride instead of working on sleds the entire time. But I think this will be fun because I think that old girl back there, I got some more work to do to that yet. I still want to do the trailing arm swap in the front, but then I think my wife said she kind of wants to get into riding, so we're going to let her have that one and mess around with it and try to get it set up a little bit better for her instead of me. And then I'm going to work with this old heavy piece of stuff. I don't want to call it a piece of crap because it's really not. It's actually a nice mint sled. I mean, with 1,500 miles, it's got some life left in it, so I'm excited about it. But, you know, it would always be nice to go out and drop some coin on a newer one, but with the price of gas and everything going on in the world, I just don't know if that's a smart financial decision right now. So we're just going to keep playing with the cheap old ones and just have a good time while we can. So with that, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Sorry if this one was a little bit on the boring side, but as always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Not the most intelligent person in the world, but hopefully you guys can learn from some of the mistakes that I make. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that.